Welcome to Tarot for a World on Fire. Tarot readings align with the seasons to explore personal and collective healing as a strategy to let the world we once knew decompose and cultivate a new world that deserves us. Thanks for coming to this space and taking some time. Feel free to settle in, vibe a bit. We'll get started in a moment. I appreciate you. Hey, how's it going? Welcome. So happy to have some time with folks today at winter solstice. Whew. Also, new intro vibes. Hopefully folks were feeling good about it. Just really excited about that offering. Really good, deep, close friend, uh, Theo George, aka DJ T Rex, made that uh sound loop vibe mix situation. Like so good. And yeah, just a really deep close friend of mine and deep close friend of the Rooted Collective. And so super excited to be able to incorporate that intro into Terra for World on Fire that we've been kind of working on together for a bit over the past few months. So thank you, Theo. DJ T Rex, check his stuff out. I'll post his DJ stuff and different mixes and stuff that he has, and um, ways to book him maybe for your own situation, and the notes and stuff and the links at the bottom of the YouTubes and Facebooks and all the things. Yeah, cool. So talked about the Rooted Collective for a moment. I will bring them back into the space. The Rooted Collective is a liberatory gathering of Black LGBTQ people to define, dream, and expand on the ways we heal from oppression and practice joy and pleasure. We root our work in the knowledge that healing for all Black people is political resistance. The Rooted Collective is a collective that I'm a part of that helps to spurred me to initiate these offerings for Terror for World on Fire, and yeah, just deep appreciation and gratitude to that collective, my loves, deep loves. And also, if folks aren't aware, I do tarot reading personally for folks. I also do other kinds of consulting and coaching work through my website, alightalchemy.com. You can sit for a spell, breathe through transition, and ignite your power and purpose with the art of tarot, coaching, consulting, and other integrative healing practices. So feel free to check me out there too. We are at the end of a year. It's a deep, reflective time for folks maybe wanting to get a little bit of insight about things to leave and let go of in this past year, things to move toward, to vision toward, to manifest moving forward. And tarot is just a really great practice to be able to have a little bit of moment to touch in, see what kind of needs to come to the surface of your knowing, and use the art and storytelling of tarot as a tool to just give you a little bit more focus in the next bit of your season, you know? So feel free to hit me up. Happy to connect with you and book readings and stuff there. Last things that I'll name, I did acknowledge DJ T Rex. Check his stuff out. Also, the ring I just bought this weekend from Flourish is super cute. It's an amethyst ring that super obsessed with. Flourish's 7-year anniversary as a Black-owned shop in Baltimore. I think was last past weekend. So definitely check them out. There's just such good stuff in there. And then also these earrings are from Nero Designs, which is a Black woman artist who makes really dope jewelry that I got in the city at one point. So yeah, I'm like kind of rocking some stuff today. So just wanted to shout out the dope makers that exist in Baltimore for folks to go check out. So DJ T-Rex, Flourish, and then Nero Designs. So check out those spots out. Cool. Welcome. Yeah. Thanks for being present today. So we are at another seasonal shift. And as you know, if you're someone that's been following these offerings for a bit, or if you're new to the space, seasonal shifts, as I see them, are just moments of, they're beautiful flashpoints. They're moments for us to be able to take a moment and take a pause and really reflect on where we are. And just acknowledging that we are always in transition. The seasons are always shifting, right? So a seasonal shift moving into spring, summer, autumn, winter doesn't exactly end what happened previously. It's not a clean cut, but it just acknowledges that change is possible, change is coming, and change happens every single day. And so they invite us into that recognition and gives us just a moment to really align ourselves with the seasons more intentionally, to know that if things don't feel great, if things feel a little bit stuck, if things are not moving or flowing in a direction that you need them to, change is possible. The environment around us changes constantly, and we can really be in practice of doing the same, right? To being in that flow and in that change. Really intense lesson that I've learned through the course of my life, and wanting to uplift that for others to take as they wish and see. And so we're in the season of winter solstice. This being the shortest day of the year that we have, and the light will start to return after the day is over. And so, what is the change that winter invites to us, right? So, what are the things that it's kind of calling us to pay attention to? And so, winter is a season of transformation. And it's a transformation that is kind of hidden from view, right? Things just are very quiet, things are asleep. It's a season of sort of what lies beyond and underneath. There's so much happening under our feet. There's so much happening in the environment around us, in the quiet. It's a season of hibernation, right? Of deeply going inward, of reflection, of processing, of examining, of just sitting with what is, you know? A season of doing less, of recharging, of paying really close attention to your own energy, to your body, to your home. Just really allows you to zoom in much more closely to some of those spaces. And I'd actually argue, I think that while autumn, which is a season that I'm deeply drawn to, birthday month situation, you know, Halloween, all the things that really just make me come alive. And while, you know, our autumn is a season that acknowledges our ancestors, right? It's a season where the veil ends up being more thin. It's a season where we're able to actually witness the dying process as it happens in the seasons around us, right? We can start to see things fall to the ground to create the fertile soil to then allow things to be reborn anew, acknowledging that cycle of life, that those things of those moments of rebirth and abundance come to dying and death, and it's just a constant cycle that we're in. That is the lesson of the seasons. Winter, I'd argue, actually, while autumn allows us to focus in on our ancestral work, and it's about really kind of doing that honoring practice to people who are no longer here with us, to hone our own spiritual intuition, our own just connection to loss and to grief. Winter is the season that gives us the spaciousness that we need to really sit in and do that work, right? It gives us time. It gives us so much opportunity to be indoors and to not be out, and to be indoors gives us that space to hibernate, to sleep, to reflect, to dream, to vision, to really start to take these moments to see who we want to be in this world. It gives us sort of that time and that space. And ideally helps us shift our pace a little bit to do some of that work. And so that's kind of what winter brings. And I was thinking a lot about, okay, yes, we sort of know a lot of this. We've talked about a lot of this before. But what is the particular calling as it relates to the season? And we've talked about so many things over the course of these offerings for Terror for World on Fire, which started in March 2020. We talked about loss and letting go. We've talked about mourning change. We've talked about alignment practices. We've talked about acknowledging abundance, examining your root systems, and just like what things that are keeping you stable and secure. And just to restate, this offering really is intended to be about allowing us to get practiced about what it means to liberate ourselves and liberate each other, right? So it is intended to do that work. And I'm going to pause because there's a sound happening. Hopefully that didn't show up on the recording. We will see. Okay, so a little bit of a break, but we're back in. As I was mentioning, this offering is really intended to be a collective care practice and how we get close to liberating ourselves and each other, the offering being Terror for World on Fire. And ultimately, the goal getting folks closer, Black, queer, and trans folks in particular, closer to your own power and purpose, right? And so reflecting on winter, trying to sit with what exactly is calling to us as it relates to the season. And it was really about what it looks like to really get practiced, to get focused, to really strengthen our dedication to our vision for ourselves and each other, right? And really kind of get disciplined a little bit about like what that looks like, right? Really get practiced. And so, it's a season of internal work. It's a season of quiet. It's a season of slowing. And it's time to kind of just really hone in on what your vision is, what the practices are to get you to that vision and actually do them, right? So it's kind of there's this energy of, and I'm feeling this a little bit spiritually in my own ancestor work. There's like no more time for excuses. It's very like, okay, come on. It's like that's kind of the vibe. And so it's really inviting us to really think about, what does commitment look like? What does action look like as it relates to who you want to be and where you're trying to go? What is the focus, the dedication, the commitment, the practice needed to get you there? And now's the time to do it. It's got to be now. So just a little bit of a story around how this is relating a little bit to me in my own world. I feel like I'm in the season of like, okay, Blair, you're saying a lot of things. How are you embodying them? Right. And to be clear, I feel like I'm doing a pretty damn good job embodying them, in lots of different kinds of ways and not completely in any way, shape, or form. And some I'm like doing a really not great job at embodying, right? And so, example, I was working on this concept paper that I'm working on around, just care and rest and sabbaticals and just how you create more, just more like care as it relates to organizers and activists and movement leaders. Like, what does it look like to have more rest and movement, among other sorts of supports? And I was working on this concept paper with some colleagues. I was like, oh yeah, we're talking about rest. Let me I just got this book about rest, which I talked about in the last conversation by Trisha Hersey, Rest of Resistance. Let me pull a quote. So I reached down and pull a quote and I'm looking through it and I go to find a quote And then I realize it is 2 o'clock in the morning and I am writing a concept paper about rest and movement leaders. And it's 2 o'clock in the morning and I'm trying to talk about rest. So like my whole body did this whole like jolt and I was like, what am I doing? And just like threw the book onto the ground because it was just like, Blair, you are clearly out of alignment. Right. And so that is a checkpoint. You can't be writing about this work if you're not embodying it. Right. And so that is just an example of ways that the season of winter is really asking us to like get clear and just um tap in, just start the engine, you know? Um, and in that, you've already been taking action. There's been so many things you've already been doing. You've been committed to this practice. We've been talking about following your passions, doing the thing that compels you, that leads you, that makes you feel excitement and joy and power and possibility. And that has been a thing that we've been in for so long. And I'm going to say that you've been doing some of it, right? We all have in lots of big and small ways. We've been working to get more into alignment. So it's important to celebrate those moments because they're happening in all the ways we can like honor, we can celebrate, we can reflect, we can rejoice. Yes, we're doing it. And still, where does it become hard? Where do we get misaligned or where do our words not match our actions? And what noise happens that keeps us off track, right? Of what the goal ultimately is, our own freedom, power, purpose, liberation. And so I do want to be clear here that chaos abounds. Chaos is everywhere. It is relentless. It is meant to exhaust us, to distract us, right? I had a whole moment of just recognizing we're about to go into a presidential election season and it is going to be awful, right? We've been here before. We're here again. As we look at the next 2 years that are coming, it's going to be a lot. And the pace of the world is literally just meant to dysregulate us, right? Like it's kind of like the intent of capitalism is to dysregulate and to keep us separate from each other. It's part of how it moves. And so, you know, we're doing this own individual work on ourselves and trying to stay committed to our work and stay focused and get practiced and get diligent. It really will take collective organized resistance actually to resist the dysregulating pace and to resist the relentlessness and the exhaustion that comes with the chaos that exists in our environments. And that organized resistance should be one that's like centered in joy, that's centered in abundance and laughter and connection, and that like allows rage and grief, which are hyper present, to move through us as a channel and not to just sit with us and kind of eat us alive and be stuck, right? Um, so it's really about how do we acknowledge where the noise is? How do we discern the noise, right? And turn down the stuff that's not really trying to give us any tools to use in this moment. Because we only have so much energy. This winter season, it's all about conservation of our energy, right? It is, for some folks, it is colder outside. Your body actually wants you to sort of be resting so much more. It wants you to slow your pace, and conserving your energy is really important in that, which means you have to make better decisions. We all have to make more thoughtful, better decisions about what we commit our time to, what we commit our energy to, how we move. And there's only so much of you. And that's just what it is. And so it's just going to take a lot of focus, a lot of practice, a lot of discipline to move through this time, right? To be able to retain our commitments to ourselves and to our communities, and especially when we have less to give. We generally just have less to give in this moment. So, given that we need to conserve our energy and be really thoughtful about how we expend it, it's really important to stay clear and stay focused and stay intentional and to get practiced, right? Um, how are we moving in alignment with things that we're saying? How are we really taking action towards the person we're trying to be and where we're trying to go, right? Action, practice, intent, purpose, right? Just how are we doing it? What does that look like? Um, it's time to see it, you know? And so there's all sorts of things that can happen as it relates to that, right? Um, maybe there's times you want to intentionally check in with folks about what creative practices you're pursuing and having time where you're working on it together. Maybe there's times you're intentionally connecting with folks just to follow up on your health stuff, set up doctor's appointments, make sure your therapy is still going, like renew stuff that needs to be renewed, get your groceries. I mean, just like some of the basic stuff that can be hard in this time when our energy is a lot lower generally than what it once was, right? Than in like a summertime, for example. And so, as we think about winter, how we conserve our energies and how we get really disciplined, really focused, really intentional about how we spend our energy and time and act appropriately and accordingly towards our larger vision for ourselves. Accountability is really key. Self accountability is really key. And so I will drop this link in the chat as well, or in the notes and stuff in the Facebook and YouTube. But there's a credible series of talks around transformative justice, accountability by the Bernard Center for Women. And there was a conversation with two folks, Kiyomi Fujikawa of Third Wave Fund, and then Shannon Darby Perez of Accountable Communities Consortium. And the two of them were having a conversation around self accountability practice. And it's a pretty short video, but super helpful. And it just invites us to ask, did the choices that I make today align with who I want to be? As simple as that. Did the choices that I make today align with who I want to be? And it's not simple, but it's a simple beginning, you know? And so as we talk and move into what practices are, right? So part of what we're trying to do also with Terra for a World on Fire is to moving us towards having practices that we can start to actualize in our everyday lives to help us move through the stuff, right? So we talked about resourcing in the summertime. We did a body scan in autumn. So this practice is going to be just self accountability practice. And so just to, as much as you can, daily journaling, daily note taking, weekly, just at some regularity where you can start to build this out a little bit, asking yourself, did the choices that I make align with who I want to be? And reflecting on that, right? And if they did, great. If they didn't, kind of sit with where they didn't and why and what work needs to happen to either ensure that tomorrow they do, to go back to those choices that happened and maybe acknowledge some stuff and be like, hey, actually, like, I wasn't moving in the way that I wanted to yesterday. I want to acknowledge that. Can we talk about it? Or if it's bigger, what is like a larger conversation around repair and harm look like, right? So just self accountability practice, just kind of starting small and moving from that point. Did the choices that I make align with who I want to be? It's a simple invitation for the winter to start really getting clear about the actions that you're taking to get closer to who you are, who you want to be, and who you already are. That too. And part of the self accountability work also is to actually carve out the time to do the thing, you know? And I in part of my work, this happens all the time. It is really important for me and important for others too, is that, the pace and stuff just gets in the way. And so, like, sometimes just having a moment and sitting down and being like, okay, now's the time. I'm creating some space for you right now. You're currently listening to Terra for a World on Fire. And you're going to take the next minute and look at your calendar and just put something on it in the next week, in the next month, to hold a block of time for you to do the thing, for you to actually start building out the practice that you're trying to do. You're gonna do the research you need to do around getting closer to where you're trying to go. You're gonna do the reading that you need to really start to figure out how to be in better practice with the vision that you have for yourself, what you're trying to move toward. And set some time to set up all those appointments that you need to make for yourself, right? To write that letter to that person that you just need to write and it's been sitting on your spirit and you just need to get it out, right? What is the thing that that you need to do to be able to move forward, to get closer, to be in more alignment with who you want to be? What is that thing that needs to happen? And carve out some time just to make it happen. So we're gonna wait. Feel free to stop what you're doing, have a seat, just take a moment, reflect on what that thing is, what's the thing that comes to the top of your mind around where you're trying to go, who you're trying to be, and the thing you've just been trying to do and haven't really found the time, the energy to do it. And take a look at your calendar, look at your next free time, in the next week, in the next month, the next 2 months, even, and just put some time on the calendar to dedicate and focus in on that. Make it an hour, make it 2 hours, make it a whole day, just whatever you might need. And as you're looking for that time, also be thinking about what accountability practice looks like, right? So who are you going to tell about this thing that you're doing and trying to finally do this thing that you have been saying you were going to do and didn't, or meant to and forgot? Who you're going to check in around it to be able to make sure that you're doing it, right? To also build an accountability partner and that too, just to help you stay with it and stay on it. So if you still need more time, I want you to pause the recording. I want you to go back 2 to 3 minutes and listen to me and listen to me again while you work that out. And again, it's just so important. The message here is that our energy, we have to use it wisely. And it is so important for us to get to be doing our purpose work. And so you need to do that. We need to do that. So just do it. And carve out some time to do the planning around it, make the space for it, do the thing that's holding you back, but just do it. This is a thing. I am also in the same space. This is what this winter's about. It's about preparing us, right? Preparing us so that way we're ready to go when the season warms and we get into our springtime and summertime space. Okay. Did you do it? If you didn't, go and do it. But if you did, yay, congratulations. Good work. This might be kind of a funny practice to be offering. Is it really a practice? I would argue that it is. So yeah, stay with that reflection on self-accountability and yeah, make the time to commit to it. Okay, cool. So we're now going to shift into the tarot reading. In that pivot, I have the deck that I use. The cards are, nope, They are not Tarot for World on Fire cards. They are Next World Tarot cards. So Next World Tarot, really beautiful edition of cards. Highly recommend folks check it out. There's lots of really great decks out there. This is one that I use often. The cards are nice and big for folks to be able to see on the screen too. And so I'm going to start shuffling the cards. And in that shuffling, we'll ask the question, what should we be collectively paying attention to as we approach the winter? So the question being, what should we be collectively paying attention to as we approach winter? What should we be collectively paying attention to as we approach winter? I'll do some more shuffling here. I think that feels right. Okay, so I'm going to pull 3 cards, show them one by one, and we're going to move through the reading. First card is the 8 of Pentacles. Second card is the Knight of Pentacles. And the third card is the Lovers. Okay, great. Yeah, these cards are so funny. Yeah, so some of these cards have come up a couple times with me over these past few months, and one of them I have not seen actually ever pulled in this deck, so it's kind of fun. Like, hi card. All right, great. Quick themes that we're seeing in the cards. So we're always looking for major arcana to see if there is just kind of major stuff going on as it relates to our lives in this season, stuff that feels transformational, that feels like it's kind of shaking the ground underneath us a bit, calling us to really zoom in and pay attention. There's just one major arcana card here, which is the Lover's card. So that just acknowledges that yes, we're in a moment of big stuff, not maybe overwhelmingly so, but just that we're, you know, we're kind of in a little bit of a quakey shaky, which has been pretty significant, I think, over the past, actually, all the readings that we've done. I feel like in pretty much all of them, and I have some notes down here just to review. Yeah, we've had at least one major arcana card that's been present over the past 2 years. So that just feels pretty consistent. So we're still in this season of transition and change. Last one though, the autumn one had 3 major arcana cards. So that one was kind of a big, I think of like a snow globe, and like when you shake it up really intensely, that's kind of the energy of this autumn. So I'm also curious how you're doing after this autumn. Doing okay. It was a lot happening. A lot of really intense questions were being asked around both our um uh, internal spiritual work and our intuition, leaning into that, our habits and patterns that are not great for us, and the loops that we catch ourselves in. So there's lots of stuff around that. So also checking in how you're doing, doing some of that too. But just in this reading, there's just one major arcana card that shows up, which is the Lovers. And then the other cards that we have are Pentacles. So Pentacles cards are about the earth. They're about our stability. They're about our groundedness. They're about what lies beneath our feet, our structures, our infrastructure, our money, our home, our just the things that the material things that exist in our lives. We have two cards in the Pentacle space. So the Eight of Pentacles is where we start, and the Eight of Pentacles is a card of yeah, again, that earthy, really clear material, like groundedness energy. And as on the card, I showed it to y'all. It is a card of like these two incredible folks kind of standing in front of these big stacks of paper and stuff. There's just a lot of like, you know, that sort of vibe happening. Um, like they have been putting in work. They've been doing the thing. They have been pulling all-nighters. They have been doing so much thoughtful, careful curating and creation to move a thing into existence, right? So Pentacles is about money, home, infrastructure, stability, groundedness. And eight is sort of like the actions that we take to be able to get us to having that sort of stability that we need in our lives, right? It's about putting the thing um, out into the world. It's about creating. It's the same message we've been getting, y'all. Like the cards are not, they are just like, here, boo. Yeah, I know. They still need this message. We all do. So give them the message again. That creating thing is important. Put energy into it. It will get you where you need to go in life, but you got to do the thing. You just got to do it. So I'm going to give this to them one more time. So that is kind of the the energy of the Eight of Pentacles that's showing up is a little bit of that eye roll energy, but it's also come up before. So it came up in our summer reading too. So this is like a card that's shown up now twice this year around Eight of Pentacles. So think about that, pay attention to that. Often also thinking about the kinds of like skills we should be thinking about doing in our lives, the kinds of trades we should be in moving toward, the kind of like learning and stuff that might need to exist and need to be moving towards. So it's a lot of that skills development, creating a thing. Just it's about actually it's kind of about the pivot. As like I start thinking about all the things that this card asks us of and sort of the journey it takes us on, yeah, it is kind of about the pivot. Because eights are also about movement and action and change. So when eights show up, that's sort of the energy, the flow that they bring. So yeah, put the thing into the world, get skilled and disciplined at the thing, make the pivot to make it happen. That's Eight of Pentacles. Knight of Pentacles. So Knight of Pentacles. So again, Pentacles, same sort of earthly grounded energy. Knight cards, being again, and this came up, I think, in our last reading too, in autumn and spring. So Knight energy keeps coming up also. Knights are cards of action. They're cards of doing the thing, of sort of like not asking questions really, kind of just like jumping into it. And um there is definitely some like naivete, maybe, that exists sometimes in night cards in the ways in which they rush into a situation, especially when it comes to like Knights of Wands and like some other like Knight of Cups, I think has some of that like full-hearted like love sort of like energy sort of situation. Um but the rush that happens in Pentacles are a very the whole suit is really that's the suit of slowing. That's the suit of pace. That's a suit of like step by step by step by step. That's earth. So that is the element associated with the pentacles. And so they are used most often are suits of stop, assess, think, strategize for moving forward. And a lot of the suit cards in Pentacles ask us to hold some of that energy. of stopping, assessing, getting really clear before we move forward. And nights are very similarly placed in that. So really asking us to stay with that energy of, yeah, just movement. They're cards of movement. They have to move. They are very about action. It's like, we're not just going to stay here and assess from here. We're actually going to do the thing. And we're going to, yeah, we're, and we're going to be really thoughtful about how we do it. We're going to be really practiced. We're going to be paying attention, right? We're going to make sure our ducks are in a row. We're going to be really logical about it. Um, but we need to do it. So again, just continuing to call us to action, continuing to call us to, um, yeah, I don't know how many more ways I can say it. You got to do the thing. Um, and then looking at the last card, which is the Lovers. So it's like a little bit of a pivot, right? Since we're talking about a lot of energy of earthiness and stability and groundedness, and how we sort of start to take ourselves more seriously as it comes to the thing we're doing in this world, and also recognize that the thing that we're trying to take ourselves more seriously for and do could actually make us more grounded and more stable and more abundant and get our needs and resources met. So it's acknowledging that in this too. The Lovers gives us a yes and typically the Lovers energy is about partnership, right? It's typically about two folks coming together and about the love and abundance and care that shows up in deep, consensual, committed partnership, right? Not the lessons that we get through that relationship. So the Lovers is acknowledging that too, right? So it always is asking us to think about the people in our lives, our beloveds, the folks that we're building deep community with, deep relationship to, the folks that make us believe in love, the folks that have a solid definition of what love is, that match our own definition of love, right? And is really about getting to our physical, emotional, spiritual happiness and wholeness, right? I mean, like that's like really what we're trying to be grounded in. So it is very much that energy. And the Lovers in this deck in particular, but also in other decks too, I mean, really also asks us to be like, yes, other and self, right? So, yes, other, and what about you? And so, how are you also building a really solid, intentional relationship to yourself? What do your own love practices look like for yourself? Oftentimes, when we are trying to dream, envision, and act in a way that is different from how we currently are moving, um, the lack of self-confidence and the lack of self-belief is the thing that will stop us from moving and actually doing what we need to be doing, right? It's that negative self-talk. It's those cycles that we trap ourselves in, that the world also traps us in, that bring us back to the devil energy that came up last season, right? And so while last season we were called to, well, this is a thing, pay attention to it. You got to like make sure you're really asking yourself about what the negative pattern is in your life that might be present. And how do you really start to examine and resist that? This season's also giving you, it's calling us back there, but it's also giving you, you know, a little bit of strategy and tools on how to move through that. And it really is about love. And it's about how we examine um, ourselves to be able to really find, which is maybe this is actually kind of some of the hardest work that we have in this life, actually, is to really be able to truly, deeply, unconditionally love ourselves in the same way that we want others to love us, right? So that is hard work. Um, and that is part of part of the journey on how we get free and get to liberation. And so, where are the people in your life that can help you get there? Where are the practitioners that exist that can help you get there? Right? We're talking about community healers, we're talking about therapists, so many folks who can really help us do some of that interrogation work, that internal work, just to help that travel be a little bit lighter, have a little bit more ease. So that is part of this too. It is yes, create, make the thing happen. Yes, take action, take it now, do it. And you also gotta love yourself through it because anything bold and daring takes a lot of guts and a lot of self-love to be able to make it happen, you know? Um, yeah, love is the driver for it. It's the driver for the world we're trying to get to. And so this is how you start. You start it now. In this moment with discipline and focus for winter. So great. Thanks, y'all. This was your reading for Winter Terror for World on Fire. Thanks so much for being with me. It's been really lovely and fun. Hopefully, message has been clear. You got some good tools to hold on to and to start to actualize and practice. Yeah, and just remember, get practiced, my loves. Yeah, we got to do the thing. We have to do the thing. Okay. um, yeah, and really ask ourselves those hard questions around self accountability and alignment. And are we really making the choices that are in alignment with who we want to be? So let's do it together because that's the only way through is together. Cool. All right. Such deep appreciation. Words. Such deep appreciation to all that you are, all that you have been, and all that you will be. Thank you for being with us. So we are going to go ahead and close out with continued vibes with the mix that DJ T Rex made for us. So thanks again. Have a great solstice, great return of the light and the lengthening days and the sun continuing to be more present with us. And see you next time.